Hello, welcome back to another video, one that has been a long time coming. I had to make a video based on eating in Japan because I absolutely love food, and one of my favorite things about Japan is its food culture. Being a country of precision and intention, I find that same attention to detail also translating into its meals. But if you base your perspective only on what you see online, eating in Japan can tend to feel all about the experience, though a lot of times it is. But when I started living here, I realized that that's only half the picture, and specifically the half that ends up in photos and travel videos. But whether it's stopping somewhere quick for an early morning breakfast, or sitting at a quaint yet popular cafe run by an elderly couple, or eating at a tucked away ramen place with only 6 counter seat tops, or shuffling through crowds at Ion Grocery on a Tuesday night, piecing together parts for a ready-made meal after your 30-minute commute home. I know that one was oddly specific, but that's kind of my point. Food in Japan quickly became less of a picture-perfect moment and more a part of the rhythm of everyday life. So without any further ado, welcome to Eating My Way Through Japan. Sushi. Even before coming to Japan, sushi was one of my favorite foods. And not Western sushi with different toppings and spicy mayo drizzled all over it, but real sushi. So naturally, I ate sushi more times than I can count, literally. Even going back to my first trip in Japan around 2019-2020, the first meal I had was sushi with my friend Momo. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think the only meals we ever went out to eat together were sushi. When people think about sushi in Japan, they usually imagine one of two extremes: affordable conveyor belt sushi or the high-end omakase sushi experience. But there's also a middle ground. Nice sushi restaurants. Still high quality, still made to order, but without the speed of conveyor belt sushi or the formality of an omakase. All three are valid choices. If you want something modern, affordable, and fast-paced, go for the conveyor belt sushi. If you want something quieter and a little more relaxed, I'd recommend a regular sushi restaurant. And if you're looking for a full dining experience, then an omakase is the way to go. But since conveyor belt sushi places take most of the spotlight when it comes to Japan, the one I'd recommend is Sushiro. Partly because it's made to order instead of the endlessly revolving belt of sushi, so everything just feels more fresh. Even my students know that I love Sushiro. There are other chains like Hamazushi and Uobe. They also follow a similar concept. But when it comes to variety, presentation, atmosphere, and just overall taste, I like Sushiro best. Somehow they also have better fries than fast food places as well. Ramen. Ramen honestly became one of those foods that slowly integrated itself into my routine without me realizing it. Admittedly, a lot of that ramen was in cup noodle form whenever I could not be bothered to cook. Though ramen is literally everywhere, I find that the best restaurants are the ones that are hidden, down random side streets, tucked away in train stations, hidden in food alleys on the basement floor too, where you'd never think to look. Places you often walk right past. Places where the waiter doesn't ask for your order. They ask for your ticket, because you order and pay at the vending machine outside before you even sit down. It's a very Japanese thing, because just about every ramen or noodle place seems to do it. Even Ichiran, which I felt was almost a requirement of the Japanese experience, but personally, it's not very high up on my recommendation list. For me, other ramen spots have always had way tastier ramen, especially ones where you can tell the owner has been making the same broth for like forever. My personal favorite spot is actually T's Tantan. They have a few locations and their miso ramen is genuinely one of the best bowls I've had in Japan. The broth is so rich and the sides perfectly complement the ramen. I highly recommend. Street food. Now street food feels completely different in Japan. because there aren't that many food markets compared to other countries. Instead, a lot of the popular tourist areas sort of become food markets in their own sense. Loud, crowded, a tiny bit chaotic. Which feels strange to say about Japan. Though, if I'm being honest, I tend to see more tourists than Japanese people in a lot of these places. So maybe that's why. First, you have takoyaki, which just might be everyone's first street food experience in Japan. Imagine a soft, steaming hot ball of batter with octopus inside. If you're Bahamian, the closest comparison is a really soft, lightly underdid comforter. It's not too difficult to find, especially somewhere like Donburi. I usually get mine from Gindako, and considering there's one at my nearest station, I'd be surprised if they don't know me by name at this point. Then, you have the street food chaos that is Tsukiji Fish Market, the place where everyone has food in one hand and a camera in the other. I originally thought it would be an overhyped tourist trap. I mean, there are definitely more tourists than locals, but food-wise, it definitely lives up to the hype. There's fresh fish and king crab for the seafood lovers. There's gyukushi for the meat lovers.
Okay, can you give a review for Bria?
Color's like butter. Melt in your mouth, Bria. This is so good.
And there's something new around every corner for the adventure lovers.
Well, that's like bon appetit.
Oh, this is good.
I want this piece.
Really good.
Then there's my personal favorite, big tuna. I get fatty tuna sushi and grilled tuna. I never had grilled tuna before visiting Tsukiji. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it's one of the best things I've ever eaten in my life. Like, don't leave Tsukiji Market without trying it. It's actually that serious. Next, we have sensoji, which I'd like to think of as a dessert market disguised as a temple street. The smell of sweet snacks just lures you in. You'll find traditional Japanese sweets like ichigo daifuku, baked pastries like apple tarts.
I don't know, but it's supposed to be some sort of apple pie thingy.
Okay.
This is delicious. It's like apple pie. But I don't know, some sort of good filling in the middle.
Or melon pan filled ice cream, a personal favorite. As well as 50 other things you suddenly have the urge to try. It's nearly impossible to walk very far without stopping at another snack stand. But that's really the fun of it though. No matter what you're craving, you are sure to find it along the way. Donburi. So we talked about ramen. Let's talk about the other kind of bowl, the rice bowls, the donburi. One thing I didn't expect was how many meals in Japan are just rice bowls. Fish bowls, egg bowls, pork bowls, beef bowls, and the mother and child bowl. Slightly concerning name until you realize it's just chicken and egg. Then you get it, but still strange when you think about it. Anyway, simple food that can be the ultimate comfort meal when it's done really well. In fact, my co-teachers regularly place large group orders from the donburi shop down the street from our school. Of course, since I don't eat meat, I stick to fish donburi, specifically tuna, as you can clearly see. Honestly, it's hard to go wrong with donburi. Like ramen, I think that donburi is really easy to find. It's usually served with soup and pickled vegetables. A meal that just doesn't try too hard. A complete comfort meal. Teppanyaki. Now on to my second favorite category of food, teppanyaki, which literally means grilled on an iron plate. A lot of these meals, though not all of them, happen around the cooking itself. Because of this, some meals just feel more social than others. For me, I find teppanyaki to be more fun with friends because you're not just eating, you're having a first-hand role in the process. Waiting for the food to be ready, watching it cook, flipping things over.
Okay.
Burning our mouths because we've just collectively decided to ignore the fact that something's very much still too hot to eat. My favorite teppanyaki is okonomiyaki. Essentially, a savory Japanese pancake filled with vegetables, seafood or meat that's painted over top with a savory sweet barbecue-like sauce. I still remember the first time I tried it during my first trip to Japan. I was genuinely amazed by how unique the blend of flavors and textures melted so well together. Then there's yakisoba, stir-fried noodles that are also popular during the Japanese summer festivals. If you're not a ramen fan, I'd actually recommend trying yakisoba instead. Just don't leave Japan without trying a noodle dish. Then, of course, there's monjayaki, a food that's way less photogenic than it is delicious. It's kind of like a more liquid okonomiyaki that's eaten directly from the grill with a mini spatula. My recommendation is to judge monjayaki not with your eyes, but with your taste buds after the first few bites. And lastly, the great yakiniku. As someone who doesn't eat meat, I still really wanted to know what the yakiniku experience was all about. And now, I honestly get the hype. Let me say, I would happily go back and stuff myself with the side dishes alone. It's the kind of environment that just feels celebratory to everyone in some way. Even if all you have to celebrate is the fact that you're all together is reason enough. And I think that too is what I love so much about teppanyaki meals. Yes, the food is great, obviously, but some of my favorite memories in Japan have happened around these grills. Just talking, laughing, and waiting for the next bite to be ready. Bento. The lunch boxes, or the box lunches, however you want to translate it. You can find them everywhere. Before moving to Japan, I only associated bentos with school lunch. I surely had my fill of bentos from the home ec students at my school. Well presented, balanced, and cheap. Seeing the culture surrounding bentos, I started to notice that presentation isn't reserved for special occasions in Japan. Everyday meals are also put together with care. Even something as ordinary as a lunchbox has so much thoughtfulness that goes into its preparation. Vegan. Now there's no way I can get through this video without mentioning some vegan spots that I love, especially because Japan has a bit of a seafood heavy palate. While being vegan or plant-based in Japan definitely requires some research, I was pleasantly surprised by how many really great options exist. Whether a quiet neighborhood cafe or under-the-rug department store curry rice. Sometimes finding vegan spots can feel less like choosing a restaurant to eat at and more like discovering a secret place. My number one recommendation, especially for anyone with a sweet tooth, is Universal Bakes. Quite frankly, one of the best bakeries I've ever been to. The variety is absolutely incredible. They have a wide variety of sweet and savory choices. I honestly had such a hard time deciding what to try. But really, my biggest crime is that I've only been there once. The location I visited sits more in a quiet yet residential neighborhood. It feels more like the kind of place you'd stumble upon while walking your dog on a random Wednesday morning. I also admire Vegan Cafe PQ's. The vibe is both cozy and aesthetic. The thing I really like is how seasonally inspired their menu tends to be. Their curry rice, for example, changes depending on the season. So if you're going mainly for the aesthetic, timing matters. Timing also matters in regard to time of day since seating is limited and they're pretty popular, so I definitely keep that in mind. This is another vegan place that I liked. This was a tiny restaurant stuffed into the back of what seemed to be a specialty food section of a department store. It's so quiet and tucked away, I actually walked past it a few times until I realized that it was the place that I was looking for. At one point, I was the only person in there eating. As a matter of fact, they gave me a bell to ring when I was ready to order. fried soy chunks with a creamy, tangy-like sauce, mixed green rice, salad, incredible Japanese side dishes. It was simple yet pleasantly delicious. And lastly, there's Skumenzupa, a tiny ramen shop that I found on Google Maps while trying to decide where to eat before a concert. I must say, one of the best ways to discover a true gem of a restaurant. The broth was really one of my favorites in Japan, after Titan's, which is also notably a fully vegan restaurant. The owner here also speaks English, so it's easy to strike up a conversation. It's one of those places you'd never really find if you're particularly searching for it, which is a bit opposite with most vegan food in Japan. Many foods and places aren't necessarily popular, but if you do your digging, you're bound to come across the best trays of food. Dessert. Now onto everyone's favorite topic, which is by far the most difficult thing to avoid because it's absolutely everywhere in Japan. And side note, I'm always taken aback when I think about how much healthier my body is here, despite the fact that I eat significantly more sugar on a weekly basis. But I have a theory that it can't just be the walking. The sugar has to be different. That's the only explanation I'll accept. Honestly, dessert feels almost a part of the routine in Japan. Kakigori in the summer, whether it's traditional flavors like matcha, red bean, or brown sugar, or modern takes with mango and cream cheese. Crepes after a long day of walking. These are the best crepes I've had in Japan because the size and filling to crepe ratio is just absolutely perfect. Plus, they add charcoal to their batter. It sounds questionable, but you can't taste a thing. Whipped cream sandwiches that you'd never consider trying before coming to Japan. Now, I'm not talking about the regular whipped cream fruit ones with the soft plain bread, which against popular opinion, I don't really enjoy. What I'm talking about is the fried bread whipped cream sandos from Age-san. You might be thinking, who would fry bread? Listen, the crispy bread supports the fillings in such a deliciously satisfying way. I only tried the sweet fillings, but you can get sweet or savory. I waited in line for an hour one Sunday to get them, and I would 100% do it again. Desserts are also tiny cake cafes, tucked into random nooks and crannies of train station centers and department stores that make you wonder about the last time you've had cake this good. And this isn't even taking into consideration the bread shops, bakeries, bubble tea stores, or even the most underestimated of them all, convenience store desserts, because they are dangerously affordable and easily accessible. Even if there's no reason to stop for something sweet, Japan is really good at convincing you that there actually is. Homemade. This category might seem quite oddly placed in a video like this, but honestly, not all of my memorable meals came from restaurants. Some of them were made in my tiny Leo Palace kitchen. Especially in the beginning, having dietary restrictions and trying to grocery shop in a language I can't fully read was definitely an experience. There were a lot of Google Translate scans and a lot of hoping for the best. But over time, learning to adapt and try new methods and challenge myself to recreate great meals became another way to experience food in Japan. So I wanted to share a few of those meals. First, yakisoba. I genuinely purchase this once a week. And there's nothing negative to say about it. It's less than 200 yen and it makes 2 servings. It's quick, it's easy, it's delicious. And it quickly became one of my staple comfort meals. Another one is inari sushi. It's actually one of my favorite Japanese foods. I still remember how surprised my co-teachers were the first time I brought it in for lunch. But I bought it so often, I had to learn how to make it myself. And since you can add whatever you want, it just levels it up. Then I tried to make tokoroten. This was purely an experiment. I kept seeing it everywhere when summer started, and I had to know what it was. It's basically a watery jelly noodle that's eaten chilled. And while doing some research, I learned that some regions eat it sweet while some enjoy it savory. So I took a gamble and I tried to make the savory version. But after trying it, with my sweet tooth, I think I would have preferred the sweet version more. Lastly, a hummus bowl. I wanted to include this recipe and show that despite misconceptions, it is realistically easy to cook non-Japanese food while living in Japan. you're still able to make foods from your home country or experiment with other cuisines. Though I'd preface that with the fact that Chiba is right next to Tokyo, so access to ingredients is different than somewhere more rural. Trying new foods. Now, I don't know if to say this category is random, but I just couldn't think that I can make a video about food in Japan without mentioning all the random things I tried simply because I happened to see it. And interestingly, not every discovery was Japanese. It started with Indian food. I'd actually highly recommend trying Indian food in Japan. Having a sizable Indian community, Indian restaurants are not difficult to find. I haven't had a bad Indian meal in Japan yet. The same goes for other cuisines like Korean, Mediterranean, Chinese, Mexican, Vietnamese. Since Japan has a large population, if you want something specific, there's a good chance you'll actually find it. But beyond cuisine, definitely take some time to try some things that would make you stop and think, what even is that? For me, that was corn ice cream. It was surprisingly good, just not good enough for me to purchase it again. It was also trying new fruits. Fruits I would have never knew existed if I wasn't living here. Like golden kiwi, persimmons, yellow watermelon. You never really stop discovering new variations of things. Every day is an opportunity for a small experiment. Making this video reminded me that food is one of the ways we understand a culture most. Yet, there are so many parts of my daily life in Japan that don't fully translate through video. Things like joining the school's tea club for matcha and wagashi, or the obligatory stop at the melampang shop on the way to the train station after work. Seemingly ordinary moments, but distinctly Japanese. I'll never forget the first time my Japanese friends shared their favorite snacks with me while in university, or when one's friend's mother made a vegetarian version of Japanese curry rice while she was visiting the States, or during my first trip to Japan, sitting in my friend's family home and us making nigiri together. Moments like that may seem small, but they communicated something language couldn't, especially considering that their family members didn't speak English and my Japanese was practically nothing. Somehow, we still understood each other. Through gestures, through facial expressions, through food. To wrap up this video, my encouragement to anyone listening or even moving to Japan is this. Don't stick to what you already know. Branch out, try something new. Something unfamiliar. Something you can't pronounce. Because behind every dish is a story. And behind each of those stories are people. People sharing parts of themselves through food. I'm really grateful that so many of those foods have become part of my own story too. The sweet ones, the savory ones, the warm ones, the chewy ones, the crispy ones, and even the ones that are still challenging to describe. Taken together, all these experiences along the way became much bigger than the meals themselves. Eating my way through Japan has ended up being one of the ways I began to understand the country most.
I guess you will edit all those bloopers.
You want drivers?
How are you supposed to eat it?
I don't know, I never had a cake before.
It's gonna look good.
Is that good?
What is your favorite fish? What, wagyu?
Bria, can you leave a review for Uncle?
Like this. You put a whole thing in your mouth?
Hey, where you go?